Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head up towards Stockholm once again, and we're revisiting two breweries for the kind of second, I guess, in a two-part collaboration that they did, and I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. So for this review then, we are going to go to Ekerö, which is kind of to the southwest of the central part of Stockholm, and that of course is home to Nordic Kiwi Brewers. So this particular beer is also a collaboration with Stränge Brewing Company, who do share a brewery at the moment with Nordic Kiwi Brewers, and it's also in collaboration with Graffiti Stockholm. So this particular beer is called the Clive IPA, and it's a New England style hazy type IPA, whatever you want to call it, coming in at 6.5% ABV. I already reviewed the first beer in this kind of two-parter. That was back, I think, in November, if I remember correctly, so about 2 months ago, the Chaos IPA, and that was really quite nice actually. I mean, I've always been impressed with the beers that I've had from Nordic Kiwi Brewers, quite rustic-y, farmhousey, almost alchemist brewing type New England IPAs in my mind, but you know, the Chaos IPA, that was on another level from the ones that I'd had from them previously, so that was a really nice surprise actually. And the Tutti Frutti, you'll see that review will have published by the time this one comes out. That was also a really good beer, so I'm hoping that this one matches those two last efforts that I've had from them. And Stränge Brewing Company, I still need to review some of their own beers at some point, so that's something that hopefully I can do on the channel fairly soon actually. I've not seen their beers in cans and things on Systembolaget though, but I'll keep an eye open. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Nordic Kiwi Brewers, and my future reviews, as I say, that hopefully I can do from Stränge Brewing Company. Not had any of their cans, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media down there as well. I'll also put the link to Graffiti Stockholm too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Nordic Kiwi Brewers then, on to my brewery notes. So Nordic Kiwi Brewers, as I mentioned to you before, are based in Ekerö, just out to the kind of southwest part of Stockholm, and they were founded by two New Zealanders, Craig Donovan and Karen Beattie, and they started the company up together back in 2014. But apparently they began home brewing because Swedish beer was so expensive at the time, and soon they began buying in hops from Nelson in New Zealand, and that became their signature, if you like. So they set up a commercial brewery in a room using equipment that they found mainly on Blocket as well, which is basically the Swedish equivalent of like Craigslist or, you know, something like that. It's almost yeah, Craigslist. I'm trying to think of any other equivalents, but they're not coming to me at the moment. But apparently Karen met his Swedish lady in New Zealand, and then the pair moved to London together, and he spent some time working in the construction industry before moving back with her to Sweden. So Karen worked full-time at the brewery, and for a period of time Craig was part-time and working for Ericsson, and the niche of this brewery is that they were brewing all of their beers with New Zealand hops. But since 2017 they're both full-time in the brewery, and they've expanded quite a little bit over the last few years. So in 2018 they moved to a larger brewery, still in Ekerö, and that year they brewed around 100,000 litres of beer per year, and they were hoping over 2019 to double that. I don't know whether they managed that, but I'm guessing they probably did, because most breweries tend to be successful when it comes to their expansions. But they've also hired a Kiwi brewer to join them, and they plan to install a new brewing system in the brewery very soon. At the end of 2019, they also decided to change the brewery name to Northern Exposure Brewing Company, and they'll also now use hops from elsewhere in the world and not simply New Zealand. And they said that the main reason for deciding that they're going to change the brewery name was that people didn't seem to understand that they weren't meaning kiwi as in the fruit, they were meaning kiwi as in the little birdie that comes from New Zealand and doesn't fly. And people apparently just didn't get that. And as a kind of fan of this brewery, I don't know how I feel about that, because I think that was the thing for me, the Nordic Kiwi Brewer. I can see why maybe in Sweden it wouldn't work, but I think maybe more people in the Anglophone world would know kind of like what Kiwi was referring to in that way, but you know, I get it. It's a bit of a shame that they can't keep that name, because that's what I've known them as all this time. But obviously, if their beers are still good, you know, it's not going to make much of a difference to them. But a really nice little brewery, this one, and I look forward to trying some of their new beers with the likes of Galaxy, some of the Aussie hops and some of the American hops and things. I think they'll be very, very interesting actually. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Nordic Kiwi Brewers, or Northern Exposure Brewing Company as they're now going to be known. If you want to learn more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, on to the next brewery then. So it's Stränge Brewing Company. So Stränge Brewing Company were originally based in Strängnäs, which, if I remember correctly, it's again out to the west of Stockholm a little bit, but they were founded back in 2013 by Irishman Tom Casey and New Zealand Maori Glenn Eriksson Huiu. So before founding the brewery officially, the two had been homebrewing together for a good number of years. I think it was maybe about 2 years or so that they'd been doing it, and they developed a number of different recipes which then went on to be in the brewery's core range. But Glenn, though, had been homebrewing since his university days back in 1994, and he'd been inspired by the Shakespeare Brewpub in Auckland in New Zealand. The company, though, is now run by Glenn along with his wife Ulrika, and they brew their main beers in Ekerö with Nordic Kiwi Brewers, and of course that's where this collaboration came from. But their new beers, pilot batches and collaborations are brewed in the original brewery, which can be found in Aspö, and it's fitted with a small 1,000 litre brewing system along with a 40 litre pilot system. And they also run some brewing workshops in there as well, and they have a food trucks, street food arm of the business too, which is quite interesting. You can go and read about that on the website. But a lot of the ingredients that they use in their beers, because they like to add adjuncts and things into their beers as well, a lot of these come from Glenn's family's farms and food companies and gardens and all of this kind of thing. So they've got some very, very interesting beers, and it sort of fits the whole mantra of the brewery, if you like. But the brewery is apparently named the Stränge or Strange Brewery, as he calls it. It comes from the fact that Glenn couldn't pronounce Strängnäs when he first came to Sweden, and that the Swedish language to him was quite strange, basically. And you know, putting all these random ingredients in beers as well is a little bit strange. So it's quite an interesting sort of concept that they've got going on there. But like I say, I've not been able to try any of their own beers so far. That's something that I would really quite like to do, and hopefully they come out through Systembolaget at some point fairly soon. Or maybe I can get up there to Stockholm at some point soon and take a little bit of a look around. That would be quite awesome to do, I have to admit. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Stränge Brewing Company, or Strange Brewing Company. I'm not sure exactly how I should pronounce that, but yeah, an interesting company this one, and like I say, hopefully you can see more of these guys on the channel at some point in the future. I'm very curious to see what their own beers are like. So yeah, as I always say, check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and of course you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages as well to see all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is 6.5% New England IPA, and the lovely artwork that you see on the can of course comes from Graffiti Stockholm, because they are also in the collaboration as well. And the two beers that they've brewed together, one of them the Chaos IPA, the other one the Clive IPA, they're named after the artists Carl Clive Windblad and Lars Chaos Hjersted. So yeah, as I say, I enjoyed the last one, and hopefully this is another one that turns out to be a very good beer, the Clive IPA. So yeah, as you can see then, artwork on this is pretty damn cool actually. This beer, I believe, was first released back in November of 2019, but I think it was re-released. I think I managed to get this one through the second batch, because when I tried to order the original one, I wasn't going to get it in time before going to Japan, because I just picked Chaos, because I thought, you know, Chaos is always, but if you're a chemist, you like Chaos, you like an increase in entropy, because then your reaction is going to work. That was my thought behind it. But yeah, you know, this one, I think I got the second batch of these, so it should be pretty nice, I have to say. This one I think will be a bit more of a kind of wheaty, bitey hazy IPA, because it doesn't mention that it has oats in it. It says just corn malt and vetemalt, which is wheat malt basically. But yeah, it should be really quite nice. Handverk mot handverk, detta öl är ett samarbete mellan Graffiti Graffiti Stockholm, Stränge Brewing Company, or NKB, I should say, rather than the Swedish. But yeah, 6.5% New England Hazy IPA, lovely artwork on it. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, as you can see, a lovely hazy element to this one, which is what you would expect. This is one of the more kind of gloopy, soupy looking hazy IPAs that I've had in recent times. So yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect, it's poured a lovely kind of murky yellow type colour, this one. It's almost like a kind of peach juice or something like that, but it looks pretty much as you would expect from one of these modern day hazy IPAs. There's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy cream coloured head on this one, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it looks pretty nice. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see this one is pretty damn hazy. Nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this beer, to be honest with you, when you know this style. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh, that smells really nice, I have to say. So yeah, straight away with this one, you can smell the nice kind of wheaty malt base. It's got a little bit of a biscuity quality to it for me as well. You can smell the nice smooth kind of white bready wheaty notes. There's a little bit of the kind of biscuity, more grainy side to it as well. Like McVitie's digestive, and overall the kind of malty side of this beer, I think, is pretty straight up and pretty simple. There's not too much complexity to it. It's also got a little bit of that kind of vegetal, kind of herbal type thing. You know, that almost rusticy quality that you get from some of the more farmhousey New England IPAs. You know, probably the American example to refer to, like I said earlier, is Alchemist, because theirs are a bit more rustic and farmhousey. Treehouse are definitely more oaty and creamy, and then Trillium are a little bit more sort of bitey and wheaty, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a really interesting point to make about this beer. It's definitely got that sort of rusticy kind of farmhousey element underneath it. I like that about this though. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things, there's a little bit of earthiness in there, but on the green side of the hops, for me, it's a little bit floral, but I think it leans more towards the kind of the more grassy side of things. But the fruits for me are very citrusy and very zesty. I would say that in terms of fruitiness with this one, there's definitely a little bit of a little bit of a lemony quality for me. Remembering that this one probably is still just the New Zealand hops, to be honest. So it's difficult to remember all the names of the different New Zealand hops, because you know there's a ridiculous amount. There must be about 40 different hop varieties available commercially from New Zealand. Probably more than that these days, because they're always developing new ones. No natural competitors to hop plants in New Zealand, of course, which is great. So yeah, for me, this one's got a lovely kind of, it's definitely got a bit of a passion fruit. It's got quite a strong, pungent, tropical note to it. There's maybe a little bit of a mango note in there as well. Maybe, I don't know if I want to say oranges, but there's almost something that's a little bit orange-like in this one. But to me, it's quite lemony and zesty in some ways as well. I like how I really like how that goes together. I mean, to me, this is quite a smooth, slightly malty leaning IPA, but it's also got the kind of big floral notes that you expect, and it's also got quite a zesty kind of quality to it too, which is quite interesting. So take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck into it. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beers, in my opinion. And you know, when it comes to Nordic Kiwi Brewers, you know, you're always going to get some New Zealand hop in there, which isn't as it's not all that common to find that in Europe, so yeah, definitely take a bit more time to enjoy these aromas, because the New Zealand hops are pretty special. I was a huge fan of the New Zealand craft beers when I was there back in 2015. Definitely need to get back there at some point. It'd be cool to go out and work there for a couple of years, so maybe something for the future, we'll need to see. But yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. This one is the Clive IPA, a New England hazy type IPA, coming in at 6.5% ABV, brewed by Nordic Kiwi Brewers in Ekerö to the southwest of Stockholm, in collaboration with Stränge Brewing Company, or Strange Brewing Company, and Graffiti Stockholm. Let's have a taste of this then. Slanja, skål. Yeah, this one again is really pretty good actually. It is on the same level as the Chaos IPA was. It's really nice and drinkable, this actually. I like the sort of sessionability of this one. I don't know why I didn't buy this at the same time as the other one, but I think it was just a case of, I was getting the order in for the month, and I thought, get one. I like to get ones from as many different breweries as possible, but I did the same with the Sigtuna, Skogen Dog, and Skogen Nat as well. So yeah, at least we get round to it in the end. But yeah, the flavour of this beer is really quite nice, I have to say. This is well done. So thumbs up to Stränge and Stränge. I guess you could say, I'm saying Stränge. Thumbs up basically to Strange Brewing Company and also Nordic Kiwi for this one. They've done a good job with this. It's got a nice bit of bite to it, like I was expecting. So yeah, when you first take this beer in, you're going to get a nice bit of that kind of citrusy, zesty kind of quality coming out of this beer, and that will remain with you throughout the full thing. But in terms of the malty side of things, you can feel that wheaty malt just blanket in the middle of your palate, and it smoothens out quite nicely as you go further into the aftertaste as well, which is quite nice. The wheaty notes really kind of smoothing out there. In terms of the flavour, and this is what I said about the Clive, the Chaos IPA rather as well, was that even though it had that kind of rusticy, farmhousey type smell from the yeast, they've got it a lot smoother compared to some of the other beers, like the, I'm forgetting the names of some of the other ones now, like the Trippy Hippie and stuff like that. The farmhousey character was quite obvious in those, like it was really quite prominent, and they've really managed to smooth it out in these last two beers that I've had from them, in the Tutti Frutti as well, I should say that as well. They're really smoothing out their beers a little bit more, and I think that is really good for the New Zealand hops, because it helps kind of you focus a little bit more on the juiciness rather than the kind of farmhousey character. So that's a nice difference that I've noticed in the Nordic Kiwi Brewers beers. I really like that about it. But this beer is solid for me. That smoothness you get in the malt base is really nice. And to be honest, the malt base is very straight up. There's not too much going on in it. You've got a little bit of graininess that comes out towards the aftertaste, and you do get a little bit of that sort of vegetally kind of herbal farmhousey type thing again towards the back of the palate. But if you go into the very centre of your tongue, it's a little bit more how would you say it? It's got a little bit of that kind of biscuity note, just covering up the booziness of the beer. Yeah, so when you first take the beer in, you'll get a little bit of the bitey notes from the wheat, and that kind of lingers there into the aftertaste, but you get a nice biscuity note in the centre of the palate too, which I really quite like. The malt base is very simple, but it really complements the hoppy side of the beer quite well. So onto that hoppy side then. In the back corners of the palate there is a little bit of earthiness there, and but it's not too prominent, I would say. It is just at a good level, but when you come further forward along the side of the palate, that smoothens out a little bit. You get some nice floral aromaticity at the front corners of the tongue, and then round the very front curve of the palate, it's that little bit lighter and more grassy. Then behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out. And for me, this one has some interesting things going on. So yeah, when you take this beer in, there is a little bit of the kind of more pungenty tropical fruits to this one, and towards the back of the palate there you'll get a little bit of that you'll get a bit of the kind of darker passion fruity notes, but then as you come further forward from it, it smooths out a little bit and becomes more kind of like mango-y. I think it does get a little bit more. There's not really the kind of softer apricot-y type fruits in this, and the orangey notes that I was picking up earlier, I don't really get those. Around the front edge of the palate, it's definitely a bit more kind of limey, and I know that that could be like Motueka that would give you that. It gives you some really, really nice limey notes, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's in here. I mean, there's so many different New Zealand hops though, it's different, and I'm not, you know, if I was actually living in New Zealand and drinking these a bit more regularly, I'm sure it'd be better at kind of picking them out, as I am with the kind of American and European hops. But I mean, you know, you've got, I remember that Racal is one that can give you passion fruit. What else could there be? I know Pacifica can give you a little bit of orange. You know, there's it's difficult. You've got like Waiti and all of these different hops down there as well. But to me, this is just to describe the fruits. It's more, there's a little bit of passion fruit at the back of the tongue. As you come further forward, it gets a little bit more sort of mango-y, and then on the edge of the palate for me, it's kind of more limey, to be honest. There's not too much of the way in complexity with this beer. It is more a kind of sessionable, drinkable type New England IPA for me, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, as I said, this one along with the other two, the Tutti Frutti and the Chaos IPA that I've had, that's Nordic Kiwi Brewers kind of stepping up a little bit. I think the level that they've got these beers on is a level above the last things that I've had from them. So hopefully this is the direction that they continue in. I'd love to see some new styles and things from them as well. I think it'd be very interesting to see. I'm sure I had a Helles lager beer from them at one point, but it'd be really interesting to try you know, like a black IPA or you know, something like that, or a West Coast, an old school West Coast type IPA. I'd love to see them have a go at this, and you know, that would be an interesting way for them to highlight the New Zealand hops a little bit more. So maybe things to think about for Nordic Kiwi as well. As I said, with Stränge Brewing Company, I just want to try some of their own beers and see what they're like. But I really like how this goes together. It's a very solid hazy New England IPA for me. In terms of the mouthfeel, yeah, quite a mid-bodied beer. Carbonation's very, very smooth in this one. Again, to me, it leans more towards the wetter end of the spectrum for a hazy type IPA. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think you're talking about 30 with this. I think it's pretty standard in terms of its bitterness. Malt base is very, very smooth. It gets a little bit drier the further you go into the aftertaste. There's a teeny little bit of sweetness there, and on the fruity side of things, it's a little bit darker, but also a little bit zesty as well, which is quite nice. So I like how this goes together. So yeah, have a little go at it for yourself and see what you think. But I think they've done a nice job of this one. Cool to get around to trying the second part of this collaboration. So thumbs up to both Nordic Kiwi and to Stränge Brewing Company for this one. And yeah, I'll need to have a little look again at some of the graffiti Stockholm artwork, because it was quite interesting when I had a look at it before. I'm not a big art buff by any means, but you know, from being a metalhead and stuff, you see some really interesting album art and things like that. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. I think this was a really quite nice New England IPA. So have a go at it for yourself, and make sure you check out Nordic Kiwi Brewers if you get the chance. And as I say, hopefully Stränge Brewing Company becomes a little bit more readily available at some point soon. You'll see them here on the channel. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nordic Kiwi Brewers and from Stränge Brewing Company as well. You'll see more of these on the channel at some point fairly soon, but thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. This one is the Clive IPA, a collaboration between Nordic Kiwi Brewers in Ekerö, Stränge Brewing Company, who are originally from Aspö but doing stuff in Ekerö now, and Graffiti Stockholm, who are a graffiti art company. So yeah, Slange, skål, cheers, make sure you check out this beer and the Chaos IPA as well.